Hello and welcome everyone to our next lecture. This lecture, we are going to go through some of the questions of vectors and arrays. As we have done the theoretical part, now it's time to do some hands-on practice. So first we will start our code editor. In the code editor, we will create a new file, and this is going to be a vectors implementation. Practice.cpp file. So now as we have created the CPP file, we will first include input output string, then using namespace standard, we will also include our vectors from the vectors library. So we will do include vector, and then we are good to go. Now we will make our main library, main function. In the main function, we will implement the question part that is required. So we will go and have a look to the questions from Geeks for Geeks. We are going to follow Lovebubba's 450 questions sheet because it is a good question sheet. So starting with the first question, the question is to reverse an array or string. So what we need to do, we are required to reverse the array. Say for example, it is given 1, 2 and 3. So output should be 3, 2 and 1. So let's have a look. Say for example, this is our container of array. In this container, we will give some value 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Say for our example, what we need to do to implement this question, once we have an array, you can see that 1, 2, 3 is going to be 3, 2, 1. So what is happening? Last value is getting replaced by the first value. The positions are getting exchanged. Similarly, if there are multiple values, say for example 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, what we need to implement here, 5 will swipe place with 1, 2 will swipe place with 4, and 3 will swipe place with itself. So that's how we are going to implement this. So the implementation part will look like this is our start position, this is our end position. Now every time we will simply do swap the values in start and end function, and then we will move the start variable to the next value. Start will be incremented, but end will be decremented. So end will be now pointing to 4 and start will be pointing to 2. In the same way, we will swipe them, the positions will be swapped, and then we will move to the position where start is equal to end. So this function will end at the position where start becomes equal to end, or start becomes greater than end. So for these cases, we are going to end the function. Let us look how we are going to implement this. So let's take a vector. As we have discussed, to initialize any vector, we only need to write the class name, which is vector, then the data type, and then the name of the vector. So we have given the name VE. Now, as our vector has a name of VE, what we will do? We will simply assign it. Okay, so in the first step itself, we will assign the value to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 for our reference. This is going to be our test case. We will test our code in this case. Now, let us make a function that is going to do the in place reversal of the vector. So we have given it a name of reverse. Now what we will pass? We will simply pass our vector of integer and we'll name it v only. But one thing to be noticed, we cannot pass directly, because by this way, if we pass, we are going to create a copy of the vector. But what we want is to give it a reference. So when we pass it by reference, what will it do? That we will get the exact vector, this vector only, and whatever swapping we will do, that will be done to this vector only, and in place reversal of the vector will take place. Now we will first write n as our variable. So n will be the size of vector v. So it will be simply v dot size. Now few more variables. Start, that will be equal to 0, end will be equal to n minus 1. Right. So by this way, our both the variables has been assigned. Now we have to create a loop. Start is less than end. So that loop will run until and unless the start position is less than end position. So up till those cases it will run. And what we will do is simply swap the locations of the values present there at start and end position. So let us take an integer temporary that will be equal to v of start. Now v of start will be equal to v of end. Here v of end will be equal to temp. So by this way we are swapping the value of start and end position, and then as we have discussed, we need to increment the start and end variables. So start will be incremented and the same place, end will be decremented by 1. So this function will do our task and then simply return nothing. By this way, we have created the required solution function and named it as reverse function. To check it, simply pass reverse function and the value ve. So what will it do? It will reverse it. Now let us check the reversed value is what it is printing correctly or not. So we will have to loop the ve auto x in ve. So let me tell you, this auto x function, what it does, that this x variable will loop over to all the values in the array and will take the values from there. So x will, in the first iteration x will be 1, in the second iteration it will be 2, and so on till 7. So it will take 7 iterations for this particular case. Now what we are required to do, cout x space this cout and lines for end break. Now as we have done, this part from line 21 to 24 is simply doing the task of printing the reversed value of ve. So we will run it. As we have run, we can see in the screen our output is 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. So that is what was required. Hopefully that was clear now. So this was the first question. Now let's look at some other questions as well. We are required to find the maximum and minimum element in an array. So that can be done simply by looping over all the value and keeping two variables, first one as minimum, second one as maximum, and checking the values there. So if the value is lesser than minimum, replace the minimum with it. If the value is greater than minimum, check it with maximum. If it is greater than maximum, then replace the maximum. So we can implement that as well. We will simply So we have created a min-max function. We are required to iterate to all the values in the given vector. So first we will take integer of minimum is equal to int max and integer maximum equal to int min. Why so? Because minimum, if taken maximum value, whenever the case comes, for first iteration itself, the value will be the first value will, like for first this case, uh, just a second, for 1 it will check with minimum is actually greater than this, so now minimum will be 1 and maximum will be 1 also because it is greater than 1. In the second iteration it will check with 2 and so on, so forth it will go on. So now we are iterating from all the values in VE. If x is lesser than minimum, then what we have to do is now minimum will be equal to x, because x will now replace the minimum. Else, in the else case, we will check if it is greater than maximum, then we will assign the maximum is equal to x. And then as we are returning a vector of integers, so we will create a vector of output and minimum and then so these two values will get, and now we will simply return our output vector. So to check that case, in this, what we will do, we will call the min-max function. Okay, so max min function, and we'll pass a value of VE. We will pass VE to it, and the output will be saved in the solution vector, and then simply print the output. So the first case will be minimum because we are giving minimum and then maximum. So output will be 1 space 7. Sorry, there should be a dot, not. So we can see we have got our output of 1 and 7. So this was the way through which we can implement our max-min function. In the next video, we are going to discuss few more questions from the sim sheet that are relevant from the knowledge we have gathered till now. Thank you and keep learning. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.